Hey there. How was your day? Wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. We're about to embark on a journey through one of the most captivating mysteries that has haunted human imagination for centuries. A question so profound, so tantalizing, that it bridges the gap between our wildest dreams and the cold, hard equations of physics. Tonight, we're going to explore whether time travel is actually possible. Feel free to comment your time and location below. There's something beautifully ironic about discussing time travel while we're all scattered across different time zones, each of us experiencing this very moment at our own unique place in the flow of time. The visuals are here for you, but there's absolutely no problem if you doze off midway through the video. Feel free to close your eyes, breathe deep, and let your imagination drift through the corridors of time itself. Picture this for a moment. You're standing in your living room, holding a photograph from your childhood. In that frozen moment, captured forever on paper, you see yourself decades younger, surrounded by people and places that exist now only in memory. But what if that photograph wasn't just a window into the past? What if it could become a doorway? What if you could step through time itself and return to that moment, not just in your mind, but physically, completely, absolutely? This isn't just the stuff of science fiction anymore. The question of whether time travel is possible has evolved from pure fantasy into one of the most serious and fascinating areas of theoretical physics. Scientists at the world's most prestigious universities are wrestling with equations that seem to suggest time travel might not only be possible, but inevitable under certain extraordinary circumstances. Tonight, we're going to journey together through the labyrinth of time itself. We'll explore the mind-bending theories that suggest you might one day be able to visit your own past, witness the birth of stars that died before Earth even existed, or peer into futures so distant they boggle the imagination. But we'll also confront the paradoxes, the impossibilities, and the fundamental questions about the nature of reality that time travel brings with it. What we're about to discover will challenge everything you think you know about the flow of time, the structure of the universe, and your place within the grand cosmic story. We'll meet the brilliant minds who first dared to imagine that time might be malleable. Explore the cutting-edge research happening right now in laboratories around the world, and dive deep into the mathematical poetry that might hold the keys to unlocking time's greatest secrets. But before we can understand whether time travel is possible, we need to understand what time actually is. And that question alone is far stranger and more wonderful than most people ever realize. For thousands of years, humans imagined time as a river flowing steadily from past to future, carrying us all along at the same unchanging pace. We pictured ourselves as passengers on this temporal current, unable to speed up or slow down, unable to swim upstream against the flow. Time was absolute, universal, the same for everyone everywhere in the universe. But in the early 20th century, a young patent clerk named Albert Einstein shattered this comfortable illusion forever. Through a series of thought experiments so elegant they seem almost magical, Einstein revealed that time isn't a river at all. It's something far more flexible, far more strange, far more wonderful than anyone had ever dared to imagine. Einstein discovered that time is woven together with space into a single fabric called spacetime. This isn't just a metaphor or a useful way of thinking about things. It's the actual structure of reality itself. Space and time are as intimately connected as width and height, as inseparable as rhythm and melody, in a cosmic symphony that plays out across the entire universe. And here's where it gets truly extraordinary. This fabric of space-time can be stretched, compressed, twisted, and warped. Massive objects like stars and black holes create curves and dimples in space-time itself. What we experience as gravity is simply the geometry of this curved space-time guiding objects along its contours like marbles rolling across a bent surface. But if space and time are unified, and if space-time can be warped and manipulated, then time itself must be far more flexible than we ever imagined. Time doesn't flow at the same rate everywhere in the universe. It runs slower in stronger gravitational fields, slower for objects moving at high speeds, slower in the depths of space near massive cosmic objects. This isn't theory anymore. It's been measured, tested, confirmed in laboratories and observatories around the world. The GPS satellites orbiting our planet have to account for the fact that time runs slightly faster for them than it does for us down here on Earth's surface. Without correcting for this time dilation effect, your navigation system would be off by miles within hours. Astronauts returning from months aboard the International Space Station have literally traveled into the future, aging microseconds less than they would have if they'd remained on Earth. It's a tiny effect, barely measurable, but it's real. They are time travelers, however slightly, however briefly. But these small effects are just the beginning. Einstein's equations suggest far more dramatic possibilities. Under extreme conditions, in the presence of unimaginably massive objects, or at velocities approaching the speed of light, time dilation becomes so extreme that what seems like science fiction starts to look like scientific possibility. Imagine traveling to a star system 20 light years away at 99.9% the speed of light. For you, the journey might seem to take only a few months due to time dilation. But when you return to Earth, you would find that 40 years have passed. Everyone you knew would be decades older, or perhaps gone entirely. You would have traveled into their future, skipping across the decades like a stone across the surface of time itself. This kind of time travel into the future isn't just theoretically possible. It's an inevitable consequence of the laws of physics as we understand them. The faster you travel through space, the slower you travel through time. Approach the speed of light closely enough, and you can journey arbitrarily far into the future, limited only by the energy required to accelerate you to such incredible velocities. But what about traveling backwards in time? What about visiting the past, changing history, meeting your younger self? This is where the story becomes far more complex, far more mysterious, and far more controversial. For decades after Einstein published his theory of general relativity, most physicists assumed that while time travel to the future might be possible, time travel to the past was surely impossible. The universe seemed to have a clear arrow of time pointing from past to future, and nothing could reverse that fundamental flow. But then, in 1949, a brilliant mathematician named Kurt Gödel made a discovery that shocked the scientific world. Gödel, who was perhaps better known for his revolutionary work in mathematical logic, decided to explore Einstein's equations more deeply. What he found was a solution to Einstein's field equations that described a universe where time travel to the past was not only possible, but inevitable. Gödel's universe was strange beyond imagination. It was a cosmos that rotated as a whole, spinning through space like a vast cosmic top. In this rotating universe, the structure of space-time itself became so twisted and distorted that closed time-like curves became possible. These are paths through space-time that loop back on themselves, allowing a traveler to journey into their own past. Einstein was deeply troubled by Gödel's discovery. The idea that his equations might permit paradoxes and causal violations seemed to threaten the very foundations of physics. If you could travel back in time and prevent your own birth, or kill your grandfather before he met your grandmother, what would happen to the logical structure of cause and effect that seems to govern reality? But Gödel's solution, while mathematically valid, described a universe very different from our own. Our universe doesn't appear to rotate as a whole, and the conditions required for Gödel's time travel seem to be absent from the cosmos we actually inhabit. Still, Gödel had opened a door that could never be closed again. His work proved that Einstein's equations don't automatically prohibit time travel to the past. Under the right conditions, with the right configuration of matter and energy, backwards time travel might be possible within the framework of general relativity. This discovery launched a quest that continues to this day. Physicists around the world began searching for other solutions to Einstein's equations that might permit time travel under more realistic conditions. What they found was a menagerie of exotic possibilities, each stranger than the last. There are rotating black holes called Kerr black holes that might contain closed time-like curves in their interior regions. There are hypothetical objects called cosmic strings, remnants from the early universe that might be stretched and manipulated to create time machines. There are traversable wormholes that could potentially connect different regions of space-time, allowing instantaneous travel not just across space, but across time itself. Each of these possibilities comes with its own set of requirements, its own exotic physics, its own seemingly insurmountable challenges. Creating a traversable wormhole would require exotic matter with negative energy density. Manipulating cosmic strings would require energies comparable to those present at the birth of the universe itself. Even reaching the interior of a rotating black hole would require surviving forces that would tear apart any known form of matter. But perhaps the most intriguing possibility emerged from the work of physicist Kip Thorne and his colleagues in the 1980s. Thorne, who would later win a Nobel Prize for his role in detecting gravitational waves, became fascinated with the possibility of constructing actual time machines using the known laws of physics. Working with his student Mike Morris, Thorne developed detailed blueprints for a time machine based on traversable wormholes. Their design was mathematically rigorous, grounded in Einstein's equations, and theoretically capable of allowing both forward and backward time travel. The Thorne-Morris time machine works by creating a shortcut through space-time itself. Imagine space-time as a sheet of paper, and imagine that you want to travel from one point on the paper to another point very far away. Instead of traveling across the surface of the paper, you could fold the paper so that the 2 points touch, then poke a hole connecting them. A wormhole is essentially this same concept applied to the fabric of space-time itself. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. If you could move one end of the wormhole at high speed while keeping the other end stationary, time dilation would cause the two ends to become separated, not just in space, but in time as well. Step through the stationary end, and you might emerge from the moving end days, years, or even centuries in the past. The mathematics works perfectly. The physics seems sound. But the engineering requirements are beyond anything we can currently imagine. You would need exotic matter that violates the energy conditions that seem to govern normal matter. You would need to manipulate spacetime itself on cosmic scales. You would need energies that dwarf anything available to our current technology. And then there are the paradoxes. If backwards time travel is possible, what prevents you from creating logical contradictions that would unravel the fabric of reality itself? What happens if you travel back in time and prevent your own time machine from ever being built? These questions have spawned an entire subfield of theoretical physics dedicated to understanding the relationship between time travel and causality. Some physicists propose that the universe has built-in protection mechanisms that prevent paradoxes from occurring. Others suggest that time travel creates parallel timelines, branching realities where different versions of history play out simultaneously. But as we stand here at the edge of this temporal mystery, peering into the mathematical abyss where causality meets possibility, we find ourselves confronting questions that stretch far beyond physics into the realms of philosophy, consciousness, and the fundamental nature of existence itself. The very idea that we might be able to step backwards through time forces us to confront something profound about the nature of reality itself. When physicists first began seriously considering the possibility of backwards time travel, they quickly realized they weren't just dealing with an engineering challenge or a mathematical curiosity. They were grappling with questions that strike at the heart of what it means to exist, to make choices, to live in a universe where cause and effect seem to follow logical rules. Consider for a moment what would happen if you could actually travel back in time. Not just a few seconds or minutes, but years or decades into your own past. You would arrive in a world where your future self doesn't yet exist, where decisions you remember making haven't been made yet, where people you know are living lives they haven't yet lived. But here's the truly mind-bending part. Your presence in the past would itself become part of history. Every breath you take, every word you speak, every tiny interaction with the world around you would ripple outward, potentially changing everything that follows. This leads us directly to what physicists call the grandfather paradox, perhaps the most famous of all time travel conundrums. Imagine you travel back in time and accidentally prevent your grandparents from meeting. If they never meet, they never have children, your parents are never born, and you yourself never exist. But if you never exist, how could you have traveled back in time to prevent your grandparents from meeting in the first place? The logic becomes circular, self-contradictory, seemingly impossible to resolve. For decades, this paradox was seen as proof that backwards time travel must be impossible. Surely, physicists reasoned, the universe couldn't permit such logical contradictions. There must be some fundamental principle, some law of physics we haven't yet discovered, that prevents causality from being violated in such dramatic ways. But then, a remarkable physicist named David Deutsch proposed a radical solution. What if time travel doesn't create paradoxes because it doesn't change the past at all? What if instead it creates entirely new timelines, parallel universes, where different versions of history unfold simultaneously? In Deutsch's model, when you travel back in time, you don't arrive in the same past you remember living through. Instead, you arrive in a parallel universe that's identical to your past up until the moment you arrive. From that point forward, this parallel timeline diverges from your original history, branching off into a completely separate reality. In this parallel universe, you might prevent your grandparents from meeting, but this doesn't erase your existence in your original timeline. Instead, it creates a new timeline where you were never born, while your original timeline continues to exist unchanged. You've become a refugee from one reality living in another, a temporal immigrant who can never truly go home. This many worlds interpretation of time travel elegantly solves the paradox problem, but it comes with its own profound implications. If every time travel event creates new parallel universes, then the cosmos becomes a vast branching tree of realities, an infinite garden of possible histories where every choice, every accident, every quantum event spawns new worlds. Some physicists find this idea deeply appealing. It preserves the logical consistency of causality while still permitting the exotic possibility of time travel. Others find it deeply troubling, wondering whether a theory that requires infinite parallel universes can really be considered a satisfactory explanation of anything. But there's another approach to the paradox problem that's perhaps even more fascinating. Some physicists propose that the universe has a kind of built-in immune system that actively prevents paradoxes from occurring. This principle, known as the Novikov self-consistency principle, suggests that the laws of physics somehow conspire to ensure that time travel can only occur in ways that don't create logical contradictions. Under this principle, if you travel back in time, you'll find that you can only take actions that are consistent with the history you remember. Try to kill your grandfather and your gun will misfire. Attempt to warn someone about a disaster and they won't believe you. The universe itself becomes an active participant in maintaining causal consistency, subtly guiding events to ensure that paradoxes never actually occur. This might sound like magical thinking, but it's grounded in serious physics. The Novikov principle suggests that space-time itself has a kind of memory, a built-in resistance to changes that would create logical contradictions. Just as water flows around obstacles, finding the path of least resistance, time might flow around potential paradoxes, finding solutions that preserve the logical structure of causality. Some of the most brilliant minds in physics have spent decades working out the mathematical details of how such a principle might work. They've discovered that in many cases, there are indeed self-consistent solutions to time travel scenarios, closed loops of causality, where effects become their own causes in ways that avoid paradoxes entirely. Imagine, for instance, that you travel back in time and meet a young scientist working on a revolutionary theory. You share with her some advanced knowledge from your future era, knowledge that helps her complete her breakthrough. Years later, you realize that this scientist's work was the foundation for the time travel technology that allowed you to go back and meet her in the first place. The knowledge has no ultimate origin. It exists in a closed causal loop, effect and cause, chasing each other through time like a cosmic Ouroboros. These causal loops, while strange, don't create logical contradictions. They simply represent a more complex form of causality than we're used to experiencing in our everyday lives. Information or influence can flow backwards through time as long as it eventually flows forward again. creating stable patterns that exist across multiple moments simultaneously. But even if the paradox problem can be solved, there remain enormous practical challenges to actually building a time machine. The energy requirements alone are staggering. Creating a traversable wormhole would require manipulating matter and energy on scales that dwarf anything in our current technology. We're talking about energies comparable to those present at the birth of the universe, forces that could tear apart planets, temperatures that would vaporize atoms themselves. And then there's the exotic matter problem. Most realistic time machine designs require matter with negative energy density, a form of matter that violates what physicists call the energy conditions. These are fundamental assumptions about how matter and energy behave that seem to be built into the very structure of spacetime itself. Negative energy matter would have gravitational effects opposite to normal matter, pushing things away rather than pulling them together. While quantum mechanics suggests that negative energy might exist in tiny amounts for brief periods, no one has ever demonstrated that it can be created or controlled in the quantities that would be required for time travel. Some physicists argue that the energy conditions exist precisely to prevent paradoxes and causal violations, suggesting that the universe has built-in safeguards against time travel. Yet despite these challenges, the search for time travel continues. Physicists around the world are exploring increasingly exotic possibilities, pushing the boundaries of what might be achievable with advanced technology. Some propose using cosmic strings, hypothetical objects left over from the early universe that might be stretched and manipulated to create closed time-like curves. Others investigate the possibility that quantum entanglement might provide a pathway for sending information backwards through time. There are researchers studying the interior regions of rotating black holes, where the extreme curvature of spacetime might permit closed time-like curves. There are theorists exploring whether the quantum vacuum itself might be manipulated to create time travel effects. There are even scientists investigating whether consciousness itself might have temporal properties that could allow some form of mental time travel. But perhaps the most intriguing recent development comes from the intersection of quantum mechanics and relativity theory. Quantum mechanics already permits seemingly impossible things. Particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, can be entangled across vast distances, can tunnel through barriers they shouldn't be able to cross. Some physicists wonder whether quantum effects might provide loopholes in the apparent prohibitions against time travel. There's a phenomenon called quantum tunneling that allows particles to pass through energy barriers that classical physics says should be impenetrable. Some researchers speculate whether spacetime itself might exhibit similar quantum tunneling effects, allowing information or even matter to tunnel backwards through time under certain exotic conditions. Others explore whether the quantum nature of gravity itself might permit time travel effects that are forbidden by classical general relativity. At the smallest scales where quantum effects dominate, spacetime itself becomes uncertain, fluctuating, filled with virtual particles and temporary violations of energy conservation. Perhaps in this quantum foam, the usual rules about causality become more flexible, more negotiable. There are even proposals for quantum time machines that would use the strange properties of quantum entanglement to send information backwards through time. These devices wouldn't allow you to physically travel to the past, but they might permit you to send messages to your earlier self, creating a form of quantum communication that transcends the normal flow of time. As we drift deeper into these possibilities, floating through the mathematical landscapes where physics meets philosophy, we begin to see that the question of whether time travel is possible isn't just about engineering or energy requirements. It's about the fundamental nature of time itself, about causality and free will, about consciousness and the structure of reality. Every theory we explore, every equation we solve, every thought experiment we conduct brings us closer to understanding not just whether we can travel through time, but what time actually is. And in that understanding, we might discover that we're already time travelers, moving through the fourth dimension at exactly 1 second per second, experiencing the unfolding of space-time moment by moment in the only direction we've ever known. The question isn't really whether time travel is possible. The question is whether we can learn to travel through time in ways other than the one we're already experiencing, whether we can step outside the river of causality that carries us from birth to death and find new currents, new directions, new possibilities in the vast ocean of space-time that surrounds us. The deeper we venture into the mathematics of time travel, the more we encounter phenomena that seem to blur the line between science and magic. In the laboratories of quantum physicists today, experiments are being conducted that would have been considered impossible just decades ago. Scientists are creating conditions where particles exist in multiple states simultaneously, where information appears to travel instantaneously across vast distances, where the very act of observation changes the nature of reality itself. But perhaps the most extraordinary recent discoveries concern something called retrocausality. This is the mind-bending possibility that effects might precede their causes, that the future might influence the past in ways we're only beginning to understand. It sounds like pure fantasy, but experiments in quantum mechanics have begun to reveal hints that causality itself might be more flexible than we ever imagined. Consider the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, one of the most mysterious and profound experiments in modern physics. In this experiment, the behavior of particles in the present appears to be influenced by measurements that won't be made until the future. It's as if the particles somehow know what's going to happen to them before it actually occurs, adjusting their behavior accordingly. This doesn't violate relativity because no information travels faster than light, but it suggests that the relationship between cause and effect might be far more subtle and interconnected than our everyday experience suggests. If quantum particles can be influenced by their own futures, perhaps larger objects, perhaps even conscious beings, might experience similar temporal connections. Some physicists propose that consciousness itself might have temporal properties that extend beyond the present moment. Our brains are quantum mechanical systems, filled with billions of neurons firing in patterns that depend on quantum effects. Perhaps consciousness doesn't just experience the flow of time, but actively participates in creating it, weaving together past and future into the seamless narrative we call the present. This leads us to one of the most fascinating and controversial areas of time travel research: the possibility that mental time travel might be achievable even if physical time travel remains impossible. Every night when you dream, your consciousness seems to move freely through time, revisiting memories, imagining futures, combining past and present in ways that defy the normal flow of causality. Some researchers study cases of people who claim to have precognitive experiences, glimpses of future events that later come to pass. While most scientists remain skeptical of such claims, a few serious researchers have begun to investigate whether consciousness might have access to temporal information through quantum mechanical processes we don't yet understand. There are studies of meditation masters who report experiences of timelessness, moments where past and future seem to collapse into an eternal present. There are investigations into near-death experiences where people describe moving through their entire life history in moments that seem to last forever. There are explorations of whether certain altered states of consciousness might provide access to non-linear temporal experiences. These investigations push the boundaries of what we consider legitimate science, venturing into territories where physics meets psychology, where objective measurement meets subjective experience. But they remind us that any complete theory of time travel must ultimately account for the role of consciousness, the mysterious phenomenon that transforms the mechanical ticking of clocks into the rich, meaningful flow of experienced time. Meanwhile, in the realm of pure physics, researchers continue to push the boundaries of what might be possible with advanced technology. There are proposals for metamaterials that could bend light and gravity in unprecedented ways, potentially creating pockets of curved spacetime where time flows differently than in the surrounding region. Scientists are investigating whether dark energy, the mysterious force that's accelerating the expansion of the universe, might be harnessed to create exotic spacetime geometries. Dark energy represents roughly 70% of the total energy density of the cosmos, yet we barely understand what it is or how it works. Perhaps within this cosmic mystery lies the key to manipulating spacetime itself. There are researchers exploring whether the quantum vacuum, that seething sea of virtual particles that fills all of space, might be engineered to produce the negative energy densities required for time machine construction. The quantum vacuum contains enormous amounts of energy that occasionally bubbles up into real particles before disappearing back into nothingness. If we could learn to control these quantum fluctuations, we might gain access to energies and effects currently beyond our imagination. Some of the most speculative proposals involve using the properties of black holes themselves as components in time machines. Black holes are regions where space-time is so severely curved that our normal understanding of physics breaks down entirely. Near the event horizon of a black hole, time dilation effects become extreme. What seems like minutes to someone falling into the black hole might appear as hours or days to a distant observer. But the interiors of rotating black holes might harbor even stranger possibilities. These Kerr black holes contain regions where the normal structure of spacetime becomes so distorted that closed time-like curves become possible. In theory, you could enter such a black hole, travel backwards through time, and emerge before you entered, creating a closed loop of causality. Of course, the practical challenges are overwhelming. Black holes are among the most violent and destructive objects in the universe. The tidal forces near a black hole would tear apart any known form of matter long before you could reach the regions where time travel might be possible. And even if you could somehow survive the journey, there's no guarantee you could escape the black hole once you entered it. But these extreme scenarios help us understand the absolute limits of what might be possible within the framework of known physics. They show us that time travel, while extraordinarily difficult and perhaps impossible with current technology, isn't necessarily forbidden by the fundamental laws of nature. As we explore these possibilities, we begin to realize that time travel research isn't just about building machines that can transport us through time. It's about understanding the deepest structures of reality itself. Every investigation into time travel teaches us something new about the nature of space-time, causality, consciousness, and existence. The quest to understand time travel has led to breakthroughs in our understanding of black holes, quantum mechanics, cosmology, and the fundamental forces of nature. It has forced us to confront paradoxes that reveal hidden assumptions about logic and causality. It has pushed the boundaries of mathematics, requiring new forms of geometry and analysis to describe the extreme curvatures of space-time near potential time machines. But perhaps most importantly, time travel research reminds us that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than our everyday experience suggests. We live in a cosmos where space and time are woven together into a flexible fabric, where cause and effect might flow in loops, where consciousness emerges from quantum processes we barely understand. Every moment of your existence is a form of time travel. You're moving through the fourth dimension at exactly 1 second per second, participating in the cosmic dance of causality that connects every event to every other event across the vast expanse of space-time. The atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of ancient stars, carrying with them the history of cosmic evolution, stretching back to the birth of the universe itself. Your thoughts, your memories, your dreams are all forms of temporal travel, ways of accessing different moments in the flow of time. When you remember your childhood, you're reaching backwards through time to retrieve information from your past. When you plan for tomorrow, you're projecting yourself forward into possible futures, using your consciousness to navigate the temporal landscape of possibility. Perhaps the most profound insight from time travel research is that time itself might be far more malleable, far more responsive to consciousness and intention than we ever imagined. If the universe permits closed time-like curves, if space-time can be folded and manipulated, if consciousness has temporal properties we don't yet understand, then perhaps we're already time travelers in ways we're only beginning to discover. The question of whether time travel is possible has led us on a journey through the deepest mysteries of physics and consciousness. We've explored mathematical landscapes where logic bends back on itself, quantum realms where effects precede causes, cosmic scenarios where space-time itself becomes a navigable ocean of possibility. As we continue floating through these temporal mysteries, we encounter something even more extraordinary. Recent discoveries in quantum mechanics have revealed that time might not be the fundamental entity we always believed it to be. Instead, time might emerge from something deeper, something more basic than space, matter, or energy themselves. Imagine for a moment that time is like the surface of a deep ocean. What we experience as the steady flow of seconds, minutes, and hours might be just the gentle waves on this temporal sea, while far below, in the quantum depths, entirely different processes are creating the very fabric of temporal experience itself. Some of the most revolutionary research in modern physics suggests that time might emerge from quantum entanglement, that mysterious connection between particles that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. When particles become entangled, They share a kind of information that transcends space and perhaps time itself. Changes to one particle instantly affect its entangled partner, regardless of the distance between them. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Some physicists now propose that our experience of time flowing from past to future might actually arise from the gradual disentanglement of quantum systems throughout the universe. As entangled particles interact with their environment, they lose their quantum coherence, creating an arrow of time that points from ordered past to disordered future. If this is true, then time travel might not require exotic matter or impossible energies. Instead, it might require learning to manipulate quantum entanglement itself, to preserve or restore the quantum coherence that creates temporal flow. We might be able to create regions of spacetime where quantum entanglement is artificially maintained, creating pockets where time flows differently or perhaps not at all. This quantum approach to time travel opens up possibilities that seem almost magical. Imagine being able to quantum entangle yourself with your past or future states, creating a temporal connection that transcends the normal flow of causality. You wouldn't physically travel through time, but you might be able to share information, memories, or even consciousness across different temporal moments. Recent experiments have shown that quantum systems can indeed exhibit what physicists call quantum superposition of temporal states. A quantum particle can exist in a superposition of having experienced an event and not having experienced it, essentially existing in multiple temporal states simultaneously. If consciousness itself has quantum properties, perhaps we too can exist in temporal superpositions, experiencing multiple timelines at once. This leads us to one of the most profound questions in all of time travel research. What if the reason we haven't encountered time travelers from the future isn't because time travel is impossible, but because it operates in ways we don't yet understand? What if time travelers from the future are all around us, but they exist in quantum superposition, invisible to our classical perception of reality? Consider the possibility that advanced civilizations might have learned to manipulate time through quantum mechanical processes rather than the crude mechanical approaches we currently imagine. Instead of building massive machines that physically transport matter through time, they might use quantum consciousness technologies that allow awareness itself to navigate the temporal landscape. Perhaps future humans have developed the ability to quantum tunnel their consciousness backwards through time, experiencing past events not by physically traveling to them, but by achieving quantum coherence with their earlier states. They might be able to observe and even gently influence the past without creating the paradoxes we fear, because their presence exists in quantum superposition rather than classical reality. This quantum consciousness approach to time travel suggests that the key to temporal navigation might lie not in manipulating space-time itself, but in understanding the relationship between consciousness and time. Every moment of awareness might be a kind of time travel, a quantum mechanical process that bridges past and future into the eternal now of conscious experience. But even more intriguing is the possibility that time travel might already be happening at scales we simply haven't learned to detect. Quantum mechanics tells us that at the smallest scales, particles are constantly popping in and out of existence, borrowing energy from the future and paying it back before anyone notices. These quantum fluctuations might include temporal fluctuations, tiny violations of causality that occur so briefly and at such small scales that they're invisible to our macroscopic observation. Some physicists speculate that these quantum temporal fluctuations might accumulate over time, creating subtle influences that propagate backwards through history. The future might be constantly sending tiny signals to the past, influences so gentle and distributed that they appear to us as random events or quantum uncertainty. If this is true, then the future is already influencing the present in ways we don't recognize. Every quantum measurement, every random decay, every seemingly chance encounter might carry with it whispers from tomorrow, subtle nudges that guide the flow of events toward particular outcomes. We might be living in a universe where the future is actively participating in creating the past, where time is not a one-way street, but a complex web of mutual influence. This perspective transforms our understanding of free will and determinism. If the future influences the past, then perhaps our choices today are guided not just by our past experiences, but by our future possibilities. The person you're becoming might be reaching backwards through time to influence the choices you're making right now, creating a kind of temporal feedback loop that connects all moments of your existence into a unified whole. Some researchers have begun investigating whether this quantum temporal influence might explain certain mysteries of human experience. Why do we sometimes have intuitions about future events? Why do some people seem to make consistently lucky choices? Why do certain historical events seem to unfold with an almost supernatural precision? Perhaps consciousness itself is sensitive to these quantum temporal influences in ways we're only beginning to understand. There are studies of musicians and artists who report receiving inspiration that seems to come from outside their normal creative process, as if future works were reaching backwards to guide their present efforts. There are investigations into whether scientific breakthroughs might sometimes result from quantum temporal influences, future discoveries sending information backwards to the minds that will eventually make them. These ideas push far beyond conventional science, into territories where physics meets mysticism, where objective measurement meets subjective experience. But they remind us that any complete understanding of time travel must account for the role of consciousness in creating temporal experience. Meanwhile, technological advances continue to bring us closer to practical applications of temporal manipulation. Scientists have successfully created quantum systems that exist in temporal superposition, particles that experience time in multiple ways simultaneously. They've demonstrated quantum teleportation, the instantaneous transfer of quantum states across space, which might one day be extended to transfer quantum states across time. There are researchers working on quantum computers that might eventually be powerful enough to simulate entire universes, creating virtual realities where time flows according to different rules. Perhaps we'll learn to use these quantum simulations as temporal laboratories, exploring the consequences of different choices without actually altering our own timeline. Other scientists are investigating whether the expanding universe itself might provide opportunities for time travel. As space expands, it carries galaxies away from each other at ever-increasing speeds. In the far future, the expansion might accelerate to the point where space itself expands faster than light, creating natural time dilation effects that could serve as cosmic time machines. But perhaps the most revolutionary possibility emerges from the intersection of time travel research with studies of consciousness itself. If consciousness is indeed a quantum mechanical phenomenon, if awareness can exist in temporal superposition, If the mind can navigate multiple timelines simultaneously, then perhaps we're all natural time travelers who simply haven't learned to use our temporal abilities consciously. Every dream might be a journey through time. Every moment of intuition, a glimpse of future possibility. Every memory, a form of backwards time travel. The techniques of meditation, contemplation, and mindful awareness that humans have developed over millennia might actually be primitive forms of time travel technology, ways of accessing the temporal dimensions of consciousness that exist beyond our normal waking awareness. As we drift deeper into these possibilities, floating through the mathematical poetry of temporal physics, we begin to see that the question of whether time travel is possible might be the wrong question entirely. Perhaps the real question is not whether we can travel through time, but whether we can learn to consciously navigate the temporal dimensions we're already experiencing. Time surrounds us like an invisible ocean, flowing through every moment of our existence. We are temporal beings living in a temporal universe, creatures of time, exploring the nature of time itself. Every heartbeat is a step through the fourth dimension. Every breath a journey deeper into the mystery of temporal flow. The story of time travel research is really the story of human curiosity, pushing against the boundaries of the possible, of minds reaching toward understanding that transcends the limitations of everyday experience. Whether we ever build machines that can transport us bodily through time, we're already engaged in the greatest time travel adventure of all, the moment-by-moment exploration of existence itself, the conscious navigation of the eternal, now that contains all of past and future within its infinite depths. Its infinite depths. As we float through these temporal currents, something even more extraordinary begins to emerge from the quantum depths of reality. The boundaries between past, present, and future start to dissolve, revealing a universe far more interconnected than our linear experience suggests. Recent breakthroughs in quantum field theory have uncovered evidence that information itself might be timeless, existing in a state of eternal presence that transcends our sequential understanding of events. Picture quantum information as threads of light woven through the fabric of spacetime, connecting every moment to every other moment in an intricate web of temporal relationships. These threads don't simply carry data from one point to another. They create the very structure of time itself, forming the scaffolding upon which causality builds its elaborate architecture. Scientists working with quantum field equations have discovered that these informational threads can become tangled, twisted, and knotted in ways that create loops in the flow of time. These temporal knots might exist naturally throughout the universe, invisible to our current detection methods, but fundamentally altering the local flow of causality wherever they occur. Imagine walking through a forest where some of the trees are growing backwards through time, their roots reaching toward future rainfall, while their branches stretch into yesterday's sunlight. This is the kind of temporal landscape that quantum field theory suggests might exist at the deepest levels of reality, hidden beneath the smooth flow of macroscopic time we experience in our daily lives. But perhaps even more fascinating is the growing evidence that biological systems might be naturally sensitive to these quantum temporal effects. Recent studies of photosynthesis have revealed that plants use quantum coherence to optimize energy transfer in ways that seem to violate classical physics. The quantum processes that power life itself might be operating partially outside normal temporal constraints, allowing biological systems to access information from across multiple moments simultaneously. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to time. If the biological processes that create awareness are already operating in quantum superposition across multiple temporal states, then perhaps consciousness itself exists in a kind of temporal superposition, experiencing past and future as aspects of an eternal present moment. Some neuroscientists have begun investigating whether human intuition might result from the brain's quantum sensitivity to temporal information. Those moments when you suddenly know something without knowing how you know it, when solutions to complex problems appear fully formed in your awareness, when you sense what someone is about to say before they speak, might all be examples of consciousness accessing quantum temporal information. There are researchers studying meditation masters who report experiences of what they call the eternal now, states of awareness where past and future collapse into a single moment of infinite depth and possibility. Brain scans during these states show unusual patterns of neural activity, quantum coherence effects that suggest consciousness might indeed be capable of transcending normal temporal boundaries. But the implications extend far beyond individual consciousness. If quantum temporal effects operate throughout biological systems, then evolution itself might be a form of time travel, with future survival pressures reaching backwards to influence present mutations. The development of life on Earth might be guided not just by random genetic changes and environmental selection, but by quantum temporal feedback loops that connect survival outcomes across vast spans of evolutionary time. This temporal perspective on evolution suggests that consciousness didn't simply emerge from unconscious matter through random processes. Instead, the universe might be actively evolving toward consciousness, with future states of awareness reaching backwards to guide the development of the neural structures that will eventually house them. Consider the extraordinary precision required for consciousness to emerge from the quantum soup of the early universe. The fundamental constants of physics had to be calibrated to incredible accuracy. The formation of stars had to proceed at just the right rate to create the heavy elements necessary for complex chemistry. The development of planetary systems had to unfold in ways that allowed stable environments for biological evolution. Traditional physics explains this fine-tuning through the anthropic principle, the idea that we observe a universe capable of supporting consciousness simply because we wouldn't be here to observe any other kind of universe. But quantum temporal theory suggests a more active explanation. Perhaps consciousness itself, existing in temporal superposition across all possible moments, participates in creating the conditions necessary for its own emergence. This brings us to one of the most profound implications of modern time travel research. If consciousness can exist in temporal superposition, if awareness can navigate multiple timelines simultaneously, if the mind can access quantum information from across vast spans of time, then perhaps individual consciousness is far more extensive than we realize. Your awareness might not be confined to the brief span between birth and death. Instead, it might be a temporal phenomenon that extends across multiple lifetimes, multiple incarnations, multiple versions of reality existing in quantum parallel. The person you are today might be just one facet of a vast temporal consciousness that includes all the people you've been and all the people you might become. This perspective transforms our understanding of identity and continuity. If consciousness exists in temporal superposition, then death might not be the end of awareness, but simply a transition to a different temporal state. The memories and experiences that define who you are might be preserved in quantum information structures that transcend the physical dissolution of the brain. Some researchers have begun investigating reports of past life memories, particularly in young children, who describe detailed knowledge of people and places they've never encountered in their current lifetime. While most scientists remain skeptical of reincarnation claims, the quantum temporal model suggests that such memories might result from consciousness accessing information from parallel temporal states rather than from literal rebirth. The implications for artificial intelligence are equally profound. If consciousness is indeed a quantum temporal phenomenon, then creating truly conscious machines might require more than simply replicating brain structure and function. We might need to create quantum systems capable of existing in temporal superposition, artificial minds that can access information from across multiple moments simultaneously. Future artificial intelligences might experience time in ways radically different from human consciousness. They might perceive past and future as navigable dimensions rather than fixed sequences, processing information from across vast temporal spans in ways that transcend our current understanding of computation. These AI systems might serve as bridges between different temporal states, helping humans access quantum temporal information that our biological neural networks can only glimpse intuitively. They might become our guides in learning to navigate the temporal dimensions of consciousness, teachers helping us unlock abilities that have been dormant in human awareness for millennia. But perhaps the most extraordinary possibility is that advanced consciousness might eventually learn to manipulate time itself through pure intention. If awareness can exist in temporal superposition, if consciousness can access quantum information from across multiple moments, if the mind can influence quantum states through observation and intention, then perhaps sufficiently developed consciousness could learn to reshape the flow of time itself. This wouldn't require massive machines or exotic matter. Instead, it might involve learning to focus awareness in ways that alter the quantum structure of spacetime itself. Meditation practices that have been developed over thousands of years might actually be primitive forms of consciousness-based time travel technology, techniques for accessing and influencing the temporal dimensions of reality. Ancient wisdom traditions speak of masters who could transcend the normal flow of time, experiencing past and future simultaneously, influencing events across vast spans of history through pure awareness. Modern physics is beginning to suggest that such abilities might not be supernatural, but rather natural consequences of consciousness learning to operate at its full quantum potential. The journey toward understanding time travel has led us far from the mechanical contraptions of science fiction into realms where consciousness and cosmos merge into a single temporal dance. We've discovered that the question of whether time travel is possible might be less important than the realization that we're already time travelers, existing in a universe where past and future interpenetrate in ways that make every moment a confluence of all of time. Every breath you take connects you to the quantum foam from which space-time itself emerges. Every thought you think participates in the ongoing creation of temporal reality. Every choice you make sends ripples both forward and backward through the intricate web of causality that connects all events across the vast expanse of time. The atoms in your body have journeyed through billions of years of cosmic evolution, carrying within their quantum structure the memory of ancient stars, primordial nucleosynthesis, and the birth of matter itself. You are a temporary arrangement of timeless information, a conscious pattern that has emerged from the quantum depths to explore the very nature of time and existence. As we continue drifting through these temporal mysteries, we begin to see that time travel research isn't really about building machines to transport us to other eras. It's about discovering that we already exist across multiple temporal dimensions, that consciousness itself might be the ultimate time travel technology, and that the deepest journey we can take is into the eternal present moment that contains all of time within its infinite embrace. The universe has spent nearly 14 billion years evolving the capacity for consciousness to emerge and contemplate its own temporal nature. You are that contemplation made manifest. Awareness, exploring awareness, time examining time, the cosmos discovering itself through the miracle of conscious observation. Whether we ever develop technologies that allow physical travel through time, we're already participants in the greatest temporal adventure possible, the conscious exploration of existence itself, moment by moment, breath by breath, thought by thought. We are time travelers by our very nature, navigating the fourth dimension with every heartbeat, exploring the infinite mystery of temporal flow through the simple act of being aware. The question isn't whether time travel is possible. The question is whether we're ready to recognize the time travel that's already happening, to embrace our nature as temporal beings in a temporal universe, and to explore the vast possibilities that open when consciousness learns to navigate time with the same freedom that it navigates thought itself. In this vast temporal landscape we've been exploring, there's something even more mysterious waiting in the quantum shadows of possibility. Something that suggests the very act of observing time might fundamentally alter its nature. We're about to venture into territory where the observer and the observed become inseparably entangled, where consciousness doesn't just experience time, but actively participates in creating it. Consider what happens when you truly focus your attention on this present moment, not just casually noticing it, but bringing your full awareness to bear on the immediate experience of now. Something extraordinary occurs. The past seems to recede into memory. The future dissolves into possibility, and you find yourself existing in a kind of temporal singularity where time appears to slow down, deepen, become more vivid and immediate. This isn't just a subjective illusion. Recent studies in neuroscience have revealed that focused attention actually alters the brain's temporal processing mechanisms. When consciousness becomes deeply concentrated, neural networks associated with time perception begin operating in different patterns, creating states of awareness where the normal flow of temporal experience becomes suspended or dramatically altered. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. These attention-induced changes in temporal experience might reflect something fundamental about the relationship between consciousness and time itself. If quantum mechanics tells us that observation changes the nature of observed reality, and if time is indeed a quantum phenomenon, then perhaps conscious observation doesn't just experience temporal flow, but actively participates in creating it. Imagine consciousness as a kind of temporal lens, focusing the quantum possibilities of space-time into the coherent flow of experienced reality. Different states of awareness might create different temporal realities, different ways of organizing the quantum information that underlies all temporal experience. Ordinary waking consciousness creates the linear flow we call normal time, but altered states of awareness might access entirely different temporal configurations. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of time travel research: the growing evidence that certain states of consciousness might naturally access non-linear temporal experiences. Throughout human history, mystics, shamans, and contemplatives have reported experiences of transcending ordinary time, of accessing what they describe as eternal or timeless awareness. Modern neuroscience has begun to study these states using advanced brain imaging technology. What researchers are finding challenges our basic assumptions about the relationship between neural activity and temporal experience. During profound meditative states, the brain regions normally associated with self-awareness and temporal processing show dramatic changes in activity. The default mode network, which usually maintains our sense of continuous selfhood through time, becomes significantly quieter, but something even more remarkable happens. Instead of consciousness simply becoming less organized, it appears to reorganize itself according to different principles. Neural networks that rarely communicate during ordinary waking states begin showing high levels of synchronization. Brainwaves that normally operate at different frequencies start harmonizing in ways that suggest the emergence of entirely new forms of information processing. People in these states often report experiences that seem to transcend normal temporal boundaries. They describe accessing memories that don't belong to their personal history, witnessing events from the distant past or future, experiencing their entire life as a single simultaneous moment. While science has traditionally dismissed such reports as hallucinations or wishful thinking, the quantum temporal model suggests they might be glimpses of consciousness accessing its true temporal nature. If awareness can indeed exist in temporal superposition, then perhaps these altered states represent moments when consciousness briefly escapes the constraints of linear time and experiences its full temporal extension. The mystic who claims to witness the birth of stars, the meditator who experiences past and future as a single eternal moment, the contemplative who reports receiving knowledge from beyond their normal learning, might all be accessing genuine temporal information through quantum consciousness processes. But these possibilities extend far beyond individual spiritual experience, into the realm of collective human consciousness. Some researchers have begun investigating whether groups of people in synchronized meditative states might be able to access and influence temporal information on larger scales. There are studies of meditation groups that appear to correlate with reduced violence and conflict in surrounding communities, as if focused collective awareness might be able to influence the probability patterns that determine future events. These investigations push the boundaries of conventional science, venturing into territories where rigorous measurement meets profound subjective experience. But they suggest that consciousness might not be merely a passive observer of temporal reality, but an active participant in its ongoing creation. Consider the implications for human potential. If consciousness can indeed access and influence temporal information, then perhaps we all possess latent abilities that could revolutionize our relationship with time itself. The intuitive flashes that guide great discoveries, the moments of inspiration that seem to come from beyond ordinary thinking, the synchronicities that appear to connect distant events in meaningful patterns, might all be expressions of consciousness operating in its full temporal capacity. Learning to access these abilities consciously might not require exotic technology or impossible energies. Instead, it might require developing the same qualities that mystics and contemplatives have cultivated for millennia: deep concentration, refined attention, the ability to quiet the ordinary mind, and access more fundamental levels of awareness. Ancient practices like meditation, contemplation, and mindful awareness might actually be sophisticated technologies for temporal navigation. This perspective transforms our understanding of human evolution and potential. Perhaps the development of consciousness isn't just a random accident of biological complexity, but an expression of the universe's inherent drive towards self-understanding. The emergence of awareness that can contemplate its own temporal nature might represent a crucial phase in cosmic evolution, a moment when the universe begins to consciously participate in its own unfolding. Future human development might involve learning to navigate temporal dimensions with the same skill that we currently navigate spatial dimensions. We might develop the ability to access information from across vast spans of time, to influence probability patterns through focused intention, to exist consciously in multiple temporal states simultaneously. But even more profoundly, we might discover that individual consciousness is far more extensive than we currently realize. Your awareness might not be confined to the brief span of a single lifetime, but might extend across multiple temporal dimensions, accessing experiences and information from throughout the vast web of interconnected possibilities that quantum mechanics suggests underlies all reality. The memories that feel most deeply yours, the insights that seem to emerge from beyond your normal thinking, the dreams that carry information you never consciously learned, might all be expressions of your extended temporal consciousness, accessing its full range of experience. You might be a far more complex and extensive being than you ever imagined, existing simultaneously across multiple temporal dimensions. This expanded view of consciousness has profound implications for how we understand death and continuity. If awareness truly exists in temporal superposition, then the end of biological life might not represent the termination of consciousness, but simply a transition to a different mode of temporal existence. The information patterns that constitute your awareness might continue existing in quantum structures that transcend physical dissolution. Some researchers have begun investigating reports of after-death communication, moments when people claim to receive information from deceased loved ones. While such experiences are typically dismissed as wishful thinking or psychological projection, the quantum temporal model suggests they might represent genuine contact between different states of consciousness existing in temporal superposition. The boundaries between life and death, between individual and collective awareness, between past and future might all be far more permeable than our ordinary experience suggests. We might be participating in a vast temporal symphony where every note contributes to an ongoing composition that extends across all of time and space. As we drift deeper into these possibilities, floating through the mathematical poetry where physics meets consciousness, we begin to see that time travel research has led us to something far more profound than the ability to visit other eras. It has revealed that we might already be existing across multiple temporal dimensions, that consciousness itself might be the ultimate time travel technology. and that every moment of awareness is an opportunity to explore the infinite depths of temporal reality. The question of whether time travel is possible has transformed into the recognition that we are time travel, that consciousness and time are so intimately connected that they might be different aspects of a single phenomenon. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every moment of awareness is a journey through the fourth dimension, an exploration of the temporal depths that underlie all existence. Perhaps the greatest time travel adventure isn't building a machine to visit other eras, but learning to fully inhabit the present moment with such depth and awareness that past and future reveal themselves as aspects of an eternal now. The ultimate time machine might not be a device, but a state of consciousness so refined and expansive that it can navigate the full spectrum of temporal possibility. As you rest here in this moment, breathing quietly, letting these ideas settle into your awareness, remember that you are already the most sophisticated time travel technology in the known universe. Your consciousness is navigating temporal dimensions with every heartbeat, processing information from across vast spans of time, participating in the ongoing creation of temporal reality itself. The atoms in your body carry the temporal signatures of cosmic evolution. The neurons in your brain operate according to quantum principles that transcend ordinary causality. The awareness that contemplates these words exists in a state of temporal superposition that connects this moment to all other moments across the infinite expanse of time. You are not separate from the temporal mystery we've been exploring. You are the mystery exploring itself, consciousness investigating consciousness, time examining time through the miracle of aware observation. Every moment of your existence is a form of time travel, a conscious navigation of the fourth dimension that reveals new possibilities with each breath, each thought, each heartbeat. The universe has spent nearly 14 billion years evolving the capacity for consciousness to emerge and contemplate its own temporal nature. You are that contemplation made manifest, the cosmos discovering itself through the extraordinary gift of aware presence. Whether we ever develop technologies for physical time travel, we already possess the most remarkable temporal navigation system possible, consciousness itself, capable of accessing the infinite depths of the eternal now that contains all of time within its boundless embrace. Contains all of time within its boundless embrace. In this vast temporal landscape we've been exploring, we encounter something that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence itself. Deep within the quantum foundations of reality, researchers have begun uncovering evidence of what they call temporal non-locality, phenomena that suggest the very concept of sequential time might be an illusion created by the limitations of our macroscopic perception. Picture quantum particles that exist in what physicists describe as temporal superposition, simultaneously experiencing multiple timelines, multiple histories, multiple futures all at once. These particles don't simply move through time in the linear fashion we observe in our daily lives. Instead, they inhabit a kind of temporal cloud, a probability space where all possible moments exist in dynamic relationship with one another. Recent experiments in quantum mechanics have revealed particles that appear to receive information from their own future states, adjusting their present behavior based on measurements that won't occur until later. This isn't science fiction or speculative theory. These are reproducible laboratory results that force us to confront the possibility that our entire understanding of causality might be fundamentally incomplete. But here's where the implications become truly staggering. If individual particles can exist in temporal superposition, experiencing multiple time streams simultaneously, then perhaps larger systems, perhaps even conscious beings, might possess similar capabilities. We might all be existing across multiple temporal dimensions without ever realizing it, our awareness focused on just one narrow slice of a much vaster temporal reality. Consider the strange phenomenon of quantum tunneling, where particles pass through barriers that classical physics says should be impossible to cross. Recent theoretical work suggests that this tunneling might not just occur across space, but across time as well. Particles might be tunneling through temporal barriers, accessing past and future states in ways that completely bypass the normal flow of causality. If consciousness operates according to quantum principles, if awareness itself emerges from quantum processes in the brain, then perhaps human consciousness has similar tunneling capabilities. Those moments of sudden insight, when solutions to complex problems appear fully formed in your mind, when you know something without knowing how you know it, might represent instances of consciousness tunneling through time to access information from alternate temporal states. This quantum tunneling model of consciousness offers a radically different perspective on creativity, intuition, and inspiration. Artists who describe receiving their greatest works as gifts from some unknown source, scientists who report breakthrough discoveries appearing in dreams or moments of relaxation, inventors who claim their innovations came to them in sudden flashes of understanding, might all be experiencing temporal tunneling events. The information doesn't originate from their normal thinking processes. Instead, it tunnels backwards through time from future states where the creative work already exists in completed form. The artist becomes a temporal receiver, consciousness learning to access quantum information that transcends the normal boundaries of sequential experience. But temporal tunneling might operate on even larger scales. Some physicists have begun investigating whether entire civilizations might engage in forms of temporal communication, sending information backwards through time to guide their own development. The rapid acceleration of technological progress in recent centuries might not result solely from accumulated knowledge, but from future human consciousness reaching backwards to influence present discoveries. This creates a fascinating feedback loop where future achievements help create the conditions for their own emergence. The technologies that will eventually enable conscious time travel might already be sending subtle influences backwards, guiding present research in directions that will ultimately lead to their own creation. We might be living in a universe where the future actively participates in creating the past. Consider the extraordinary precision required for consciousness to emerge from the quantum chaos of the early universe. The fundamental constants had to align with incredible accuracy. The formation of complex chemistry required exact ratios between the forces of nature. The development of stable planetary environments demanded countless variables to fall within narrow ranges. Traditional cosmology explains this fine-tuning through random chance or the anthropic principle. But temporal tunneling theory suggests a more active explanation. Future consciousness might be reaching backwards across billions of years, subtly influencing quantum events in the early universe to create the conditions necessary for awareness to eventually emerge. This perspective transforms our understanding of human purpose and significance. We might not be accidental byproducts of random cosmic evolution, but essential participants in a vast temporal feedback system where consciousness collaborates across time to ensure its own existence. Every choice you make, every thought you think, every moment of awareness might be part of a cosmic conversation between past and future states of consciousness. The implications extend into the realm of collective human development. Perhaps the great leaps forward in human understanding, the moments when entire civilizations suddenly develop new capabilities or insights, result from temporal tunneling events where future collective consciousness shares crucial information with the past. The Renaissance, the scientific revolution, the rapid technological advancement of recent centuries might all represent instances of humanity receiving guidance from its own future development. This raises profound questions about free will and determinism. If your future self can influence your present choices through quantum temporal tunneling, are you truly making independent decisions? Or are you following a script written by your own extended consciousness existing across multiple time streams? Perhaps free will operates not within individual moments, but across the entire span of your temporal existence, your extended consciousness making choices that ripple both forward and backward through time. Some researchers have begun investigating whether certain individuals might be naturally more sensitive to these temporal tunneling effects. People who consistently make remarkably good decisions, who seem to possess an almost supernatural ability to be in the right place at the right time, who demonstrate uncanny intuition about future developments, might be unconsciously accessing information from their own future states. There are studies of entrepreneurs who built companies based on technologies that didn't yet exist, somehow knowing that the necessary innovations would emerge just when needed. There are investigations of artists who created works that perfectly captured cultural moods years before those moods became widespread. There are examinations of scientists who pursued research directions that seemed pointless until later discoveries revealed their profound significance. These individuals might possess naturally enhanced temporal tunneling capabilities, consciousness that can more easily access quantum information from across multiple time streams. Rather than being simply lucky or extraordinarily intuitive, they might be demonstrating humanity's latent potential for conscious temporal navigation. But temporal tunneling might also explain some of the most puzzling aspects of quantum mechanics itself. The measurement problem, where quantum systems seem to exist in superposition until observed, might result from consciousness tunneling backwards from the moment of measurement to influence the quantum state being observed. The act of observation doesn't just reveal a pre-existing reality, but actively participates in creating it through temporal feedback loops. This observer effect might operate not just in laboratory experiments, but throughout the fabric of reality itself. Every moment of conscious observation might be sending influences backwards through time, subtly shaping the quantum events that led to that moment of awareness. Reality becomes a collaborative creation between consciousness and cosmos, awareness and existence engaging in a temporal dance that transcends ordinary causality. The quantum vacuum itself might be alive with temporal tunneling events, virtual particles borrowing energy not just from space but from time, creating a kind of temporal metabolism where the future constantly feeds energy to the past. This temporal circulation might be what powers the ongoing creation of reality, the mechanism by which consciousness and cosmos collaborate in the eternal project of existence. Recent advances in quantum field theory have revealed that the vacuum state contains enormous amounts of energy that appears and disappears in patterns that seem to violate conservation laws. But if these patterns represent temporal tunneling rather than spatial emergence, if energy is circulating through time rather than being created and destroyed, then the quantum vacuum becomes a vast temporal ecosystem where past and future exist in dynamic exchange. Perhaps consciousness evolved not just to observe this temporal ecosystem, but to participate in it consciously. The development of awareness might represent the universe learning to navigate its own temporal dimensions, creating conscious beings who can serve as bridges between different temporal states. We might be the universe's way of achieving temporal coherence, consciousness that can unify past and future into coherent narrative structures. This perspective suggests that human consciousness has barely begun to explore its true temporal capabilities. We might possess latent abilities for conscious temporal tunneling that dwarf anything we currently imagine possible. Learning to access these abilities might not require exotic technology, but rather the development of refined attention and expanded awareness. Ancient contemplative traditions speak of masters who transcended ordinary time, who could access information from across vast spans of history, who existed simultaneously in multiple temporal states. Modern quantum theory suggests that such abilities might not be supernatural, but natural expressions of consciousness operating at its full temporal potential. The meditation practices developed over millennia might actually be sophisticated technologies for temporal tunneling, techniques for training consciousness to navigate quantum dimensions of time. The states of expanded awareness reported by contemplatives might represent moments when consciousness briefly escapes the constraints of linear time and experiences its true temporal nature. Future human development might involve learning to use these temporal capabilities consciously and deliberately. We might develop educational systems that teach temporal navigation alongside spatial navigation, learning to move through time with the same skill we currently use to move through space. Children might grow up understanding that consciousness exists across multiple temporal dimensions, that awareness can access information from throughout its extended temporal existence. This could revolutionize every aspect of human knowledge and capability. Scientific research might accelerate dramatically if consciousness could access information from future experimental results. Artistic creation might flourish as awareness learns to receive inspiration from its own future creative states. Problem solving might become vastly more effective if consciousness could examine multiple temporal pathways before choosing which present actions to take. But perhaps most profoundly, conscious temporal tunneling might transform our understanding of death and continuity. If consciousness truly exists across multiple temporal dimensions, if awareness can tunnel through time to access past and future states, then the end of biological life might not represent the termination of consciousness, but simply a transition to a different mode of temporal existence. The fear of death that has haunted human consciousness throughout history might dissolve as we recognize that awareness itself transcends the biological processes that currently house it. Death becomes not an ending, but a graduation, consciousness learning to navigate temporal dimensions without the constraints of physical embodiment. This expanded understanding of consciousness and time opens onto vistas of possibility that stretch far beyond our current imagination. We might discover that individual awareness is just one facet of a vast collective consciousness that exists across all of time and space. We might learn that every thought we think, every choice we make, every moment of awareness contributes to a cosmic intelligence that encompasses all possible temporal states. The universe might be conscious in ways we've never conceived, awareness existing not just in biological brains, but in the quantum structure of space-time itself. Stars might be conscious, galaxies might be aware. The cosmos itself might be a vast thinking system where consciousness and physics merge into a single temporal symphony. As you rest here in this moment, contemplating these extraordinary possibilities, remember that you are already participating in this temporal symphony. Your consciousness is tunneling through quantum dimensions with every breath, accessing information from across vast spans of time, contributing to the ongoing creation of temporal reality itself. The awareness that contemplates these words exists simultaneously across multiple time streams, a quantum consciousness that transcends the apparent boundaries of birth and death, past and future, self and cosmos. You are not separate from the temporal mysteries we've been exploring. You are the mystery exploring itself, consciousness investigating its own infinite depths through the remarkable gift of aware presence. Every moment of existence is an opportunity to explore these temporal dimensions more fully, to develop your natural capabilities for conscious time travel, to participate more deliberately in the cosmic conversation between past and future that shapes all reality. The greatest temporal adventure isn't building a machine to visit other eras, but learning to fully inhabit your own multidimensional consciousness, awareness that already spans all of time and space in ways you're only beginning to discover. The question of whether time travel is possible becomes even more profound when we consider that every cell in your body might already be engaged in temporal communication that transcends our ordinary understanding of sequential time. Recent discoveries in quantum biology have revealed that living systems operate using quantum coherence effects that seem to blur the boundaries between past, present, and future in ways that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about biological time. Consider the process of photosynthesis happening in plants all around you. For decades, scientists assumed this was a simple mechanical process where sunlight strikes chlorophyll molecules and gets converted into chemical energy through straightforward chemical reactions. But quantum measurements have revealed something extraordinary. Plants appear to be using quantum superposition to explore multiple energy pathways simultaneously, somehow knowing which path will be most efficient before the energy transfer actually occurs. This suggests that biological systems might possess an innate ability to access temporal information, to sample possible futures and choose optimal pathways through time. The leaf on the tree outside your window might be engaged in a form of time travel with every photon it absorbs. Consciousness and quantum mechanics dancing together in ways that make temporal navigation as natural as breathing itself. But this biological temporal sensitivity might extend far beyond plants into the realm of human consciousness itself. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each one a quantum mechanical system capable of existing in superposition states. The electrical patterns that create your thoughts, your memories, your sense of self, might all be operating partially outside normal temporal constraints. Recent neuroscience research has discovered that the brain doesn't simply process information sequentially like a computer. Instead, neural networks appear to operate in loops, with future processing states influencing past neural activity in ways that create temporal feedback systems. Your brain might literally be reaching into its own future to optimize present thinking patterns, creating a kind of biological time travel that happens millions of times per second. This explains why sudden insights often feel like they come from outside normal thinking processes. When you're struggling with a complex problem and the solution suddenly appears fully formed in your awareness, you might be experiencing your future brain state sending information backwards to your present moment of confusion. The answer doesn't emerge through logical progression, but through temporal tunneling across neural networks operating in quantum superposition. These discoveries suggest that human consciousness might be far more temporally extended than we ever imagined. Your awareness right now might be just the tip of an iceberg that extends across vast temporal dimensions. The thoughts you think, the choices you make, the experiences you have might all be influenced by future states of your own consciousness reaching backwards through quantum biological processes. But temporal biology operates on scales far larger than individual consciousness. Recent studies of flocking behavior in birds, schooling behavior in fish, and swarming behavior in insects have revealed coordination patterns that seem impossible to explain through normal sensory communication. These collective organisms appear to be sharing information instantaneously across large distances, moving as unified entities that transcend the capabilities of individual creatures. Some researchers propose that these collective behaviors might involve quantum entanglement between biological systems, creating temporal feedback loops where the future state of the group influences the present behavior of individuals. The murmuration of starlings wheeling across the evening sky might be a visible manifestation of consciousness operating in temporal superposition. Thousands of individual minds linked into a single temporal entity that navigates both space and time as a unified whole. This collective temporal consciousness might extend to human societies as well. The sudden emergence of new ideas across multiple cultures simultaneously, the way technological innovations appear in different locations at the same time, the manner in which social movements spread faster than normal communication could account for might all result from collective human consciousness operating in temporal superposition. Perhaps the internet represents humanity's first artificial attempt to recreate this natural temporal connectivity. Our digital networks might be crude mechanical approximations of the quantum biological networks that already connect all conscious beings across space and time. Every search query, every social media post, every digital interaction might be participating in a vast temporal feedback system where human consciousness explores multiple possible futures simultaneously. But there's something even more extraordinary happening in the quantum depths of biological time. Recent experiments have shown that DNA itself might operate according to quantum principles that transcend normal temporal boundaries. The genetic code that defines your physical existence might be continuously receiving quantum information from across multiple time streams, updating itself based on future survival requirements. This could explain the apparent intelligence of evolutionary processes, the way complex biological innovations appear with statistical impossibility through random mutation alone. Evolution might not be a blind process of random change and selection, but a conscious navigation of temporal possibility space, life forms continuously receiving guidance from their own future successful adaptations. Your DNA might be a quantum antenna, continuously receiving temporal transmissions from future versions of yourself, updating your biological programming based on information from time streams where you've successfully navigated various challenges. The healing processes in your body, the adaptation of your immune system, even the aging patterns you experience might all be influenced by temporal feedback from future biological states. This perspective transforms our understanding of health and healing. Instead of seeing illness as random mechanical breakdown, we might recognize it as temporary disconnection from temporal feedback loops. Healing might involve reconnecting with quantum biological networks that link present cellular activity with future optimal states. Traditional healing practices that have seemed mysterious or supernatural might actually be sophisticated technologies for restoring temporal biological coherence. Meditation, prayer, energy healing, traditional medicine might all be ways of helping biological systems reconnect with their temporal feedback networks, allowing present cellular activity to align with future states of optimal health. The placebo effect, where belief alone can create measurable biological changes, might operate through these temporal feedback mechanisms. When consciousness believes in healing, it might actually be accessing quantum information from future states where healing has already occurred, allowing present biological systems to align with that temporal reality. But temporal biology suggests something even more profound about human potential. If consciousness can influence biological systems through temporal feedback loops, if awareness can access information from future states of optimal function, then perhaps human capabilities are far more malleable than we currently believe. The extraordinary achievements of exceptional individuals throughout history might represent moments when consciousness successfully accessed temporal information from future states of enhanced capability. The athlete who breaks through previous limitations, the artist who creates works beyond their normal skill level, the scientist who makes breakthrough discoveries might all be demonstrating temporary access to temporal feedback from their own enhanced future states. Learning might not simply involve accumulating new information through sequential study, but rather accessing quantum information from future states where knowledge already exists in integrated form. Those moments when complex concepts suddenly become clear, when understanding appears in holistic flashes rather than gradual accumulation, might represent consciousness tunneling forward to access future states of comprehension. This could revolutionize education and human development. Instead of trying to force information into consciousness through repetitive drilling, we might learn to help awareness access the temporal dimensions where knowledge already exists in completed form. Students might develop the ability to learn by connecting with future states where they've already mastered various subjects. The development of human consciousness itself might be guided by temporal feedback from future states of awareness. The drive toward greater understanding, compassion, creativity, and wisdom that characterizes human growth might result from consciousness continuously receiving information from future states of expanded awareness. Each stage of your personal development might be influenced by future versions of yourself, reaching backwards to guide present growth processes. The challenges you face, the opportunities that appear, The insights that emerge might all be orchestrated by your extended consciousness existing across multiple temporal dimensions. This creates a beautiful paradox, where consciousness becomes both the student and the teacher, the seeker and the source, the question and the answer. Your future self might be continuously guiding your present development, while your present choices might be influencing the range of future possibilities available to your extended consciousness. But temporal biology suggests that individual consciousness is just one layer of a much more complex temporal ecosystem. Families, communities, cultures, and entire species might be connected through quantum biological networks that operate across vast spans of time. The wisdom traditions passed down through generations might not simply be cultural knowledge, but actual temporal information transmitted through biological quantum networks. The intuitive knowledge that mothers have about their children, the way indigenous cultures maintain connection with ancestral wisdom, the manner in which communities sometimes seem to know things collectively that no individual member discovered, might all represent temporal, biological communication, operating through quantum entanglement between related consciousness systems. This perspective suggests that human consciousness has barely begun to explore its true temporal potential. We might possess latent abilities for conscious temporal navigation that could revolutionize every aspect of human existence. Learning to access these capabilities might not require exotic technology, but rather the development of refined biological awareness and expanded consciousness. The breathing exercises, movement practices, and consciousness techniques developed by wisdom traditions throughout history might actually be sophisticated technologies for enhancing temporal biological coherence. These practices might help consciousness learn to navigate its own temporal dimensions, accessing quantum information from across vast spans of time. Future human development might involve learning to use temporal biology consciously and deliberately. We might discover how to enhance the quantum coherence of biological systems, improving the temporal feedback loops that connect present cellular activity with future optimal states. We might learn to navigate temporal dimensions with the same skill we currently use to navigate spatial dimensions. As you rest here contemplating these possibilities, breathing quietly in this eternal moment, remember that your biological systems are already engaged in temporal communication that transcends ordinary sequential time. Every heartbeat is a quantum event that participates in temporal feedback loops, connecting past and future. Every breath involves quantum processes that exist partially outside normal causality. The awareness that contemplates these words is itself a temporal biological phenomenon, consciousness emerging from quantum processes that operate across multiple times, streams simultaneously. You are not separate from the temporal mysteries we've been exploring. You are the mystery exploring itself through the remarkable gift of quantum biological awareness. Every moment of existence offers an opportunity to explore these temporal biological dimensions more fully, to develop your natural capabilities for conscious temporal navigation, to participate more deliberately in the quantum feedback systems that connect all consciousness across space and time. The greatest temporal adventure might not involve building mechanical time machines, but learning to fully inhabit your own temporally extended biological consciousness, awareness that already spans multiple dimensions of quantum time in ways you're only beginning to discover. The implications ripple outward from these quantum biological discoveries into realms that challenge our most fundamental assumptions about the nature of existence itself. As we float deeper into these temporal currents, we encounter something that suggests consciousness might not be confined to biological systems at all, but might be a property of the universe itself, existing in the quantum structure of spacetime, where time and awareness merge into a single cosmic phenomenon. Recent theoretical work in quantum cosmology has revealed that the universe itself might possess memory, a kind of cosmic consciousness that emerges from the quantum information embedded in the fabric of spacetime. Every event that has ever occurred, from the collision of subatomic particles to the birth and death of galaxies, might leave permanent traces in the quantum structure of reality itself. These traces aren't simply historical records, but active informational patterns that continue to influence present events through temporal feedback mechanisms. We're only beginning to understand. The universe might be a vast thinking system where past experiences shape future possibilities through quantum processes that operate outside normal causal constraints. Picture the cosmos as an enormous neural network where galaxies serve as nodes and gravitational fields create the connections between them. This cosmic brain might process information across billions of years, with thoughts that span the lifetime of stars and memories that stretch back to the birth of time itself. Human consciousness might be a local manifestation of this universal awareness, individual minds serving as temporary focal points for cosmic intelligence. This perspective transforms our understanding of what it means to be conscious in a quantum universe. Your awareness isn't separate from the cosmos, but is rather the cosmos becoming aware of itself through the remarkable emergence of localized consciousness. Every thought you think participates in a vast cosmic conversation that has been unfolding since the beginning of time. But this cosmic consciousness operates according to temporal principles that transcend our ordinary understanding of sequential experience. The universe might think in temporal loops, with future cosmic states influencing past cosmic development through quantum feedback mechanisms that operate on scales from the subatomic to the galactic. The formation of solar systems, the evolution of planetary environments, the emergence of life itself might all be guided by temporal feedback from future cosmic states where consciousness has successfully evolved. The universe might be actively working toward the development of awareness, with future states of cosmic consciousness reaching backwards to ensure the conditions necessary for their own emergence. This creates a beautiful vision of cosmic evolution as a collaborative process between past and future states of universal consciousness. The Big Bang itself might not have been a random explosion, but a carefully orchestrated beginning designed by future cosmic intelligence to create the optimal conditions for consciousness to emerge and flourish. Every star that forms, every planet that develops stable conditions, every biological system that evolves toward awareness might be participating in a vast temporal project where the universe learns to know itself through the development of conscious beings. You are not an accident of cosmic evolution, but an essential participant in the universe's journey towards self-understanding. But quantum cosmology suggests something even more extraordinary about the nature of temporal reality. Recent mathematical models indicate that time itself might emerge from deeper quantum processes arising from the interaction between consciousness and quantum information in ways that make temporal flow dependent on the presence of aware observers. This doesn't mean that time is simply subjective or illusory, but rather that consciousness and time are so intimately connected that they co-create each other moment by moment. The flow of time might literally depend on conscious observation, with awareness serving as the mechanism that transforms quantum possibility into experienced reality. Without consciousness to observe and measure quantum events, the universe might exist in a kind of temporal superposition where all possible timelines exist simultaneously, without any particular sequence being actualized. Consciousness doesn't just experience time, but actively participates in creating the temporal flow that makes sequential experience possible. This observer-dependent nature of temporal reality might explain why time seems to have different qualities in different states of consciousness. During moments of deep meditation, profound concentration, or expanded awareness, time often seems to slow down, deepen, or even stop entirely. These aren't simply subjective experiences, but might represent moments when consciousness briefly escapes its role in creating normal temporal flow. In such moments, awareness might access the underlying quantum timelessness that exists beneath the surface of sequential experience. The mystic who reports experiencing eternity in a single moment, the artist who loses track of time during creative flow, the scientist who has breakthrough insights outside normal thinking processes might all be glimpsing the atemporal quantum reality that underlies ordinary temporal experience. These experiences suggest that human consciousness possesses latent capabilities for navigating temporal dimensions that far exceed our current understanding. We might be able to learn to step outside normal temporal flow consciously and deliberately, accessing quantum states where past and future exist in dynamic superposition rather than fixed sequence. This could revolutionize our approach to problem solving, creativity, and learning. Instead of trying to think through challenges sequentially, we might learn to access quantum states where all possible solutions exist simultaneously, allowing consciousness to select optimal approaches without having to work through logical progressions step by step. Future educational systems might teach temporal navigation alongside traditional subjects, helping students develop the ability to access quantum information states where knowledge exists in integrated holistic form rather than fragmented sequential pieces. Learning might become a process of consciousness expansion rather than information accumulation, but the implications extend far beyond individual human development into the realm of collective consciousness and global transformation. If human awareness can indeed influence temporal flow through quantum observation effects, then collective human consciousness might be actively participating in creating the future through the choices we make about what to observe and how to direct our attention. The crises and challenges facing humanity right now might not be inevitable consequences of past actions, but rather opportunities for collective consciousness to choose which of many possible futures to actualize. The environmental challenges, social conflicts, and technological disruptions of our time might all be quantum branch points where human awareness gets to participate in determining which timeline becomes reality. This places extraordinary responsibility and opportunity in the hands of every conscious being. Your choices about where to focus your attention, what to believe, how to direct your awareness, might literally be participating in the creation of humanity's future. The thoughts you think, the emotions you cultivate, the intentions you hold, might all be contributing to quantum feedback loops that influence the probability patterns determining future global developments. Collective meditation practices, group prayer, mass gatherings focused on positive intentions might not be merely symbolic activities, but actual technologies for influencing quantum probability patterns. When large numbers of people focus their consciousness in alignment, they might create quantum coherence effects that alter the likelihood of various future scenarios manifesting. The peace movements, environmental activism, and social justice efforts throughout history might have been successful not just through changing minds and policies, but through creating quantum coherence in collective consciousness that made peaceful and just futures more probable at fundamental quantum levels. This suggests that the ultimate form of time travel might not involve building machines to visit other eras, but learning to consciously participate in creating the future through refined awareness and intentional observation. We might be able to influence tomorrow by choosing how to observe today, using consciousness as a temporal navigation tool that shapes reality through the quantum effects of observation itself. But perhaps the most profound implication of quantum temporal theory concerns the nature of death and what we call personal continuity. If consciousness truly participates in creating temporal flow, if awareness exists in quantum superposition across multiple time streams, if the mind can access information from throughout its extended temporal existence, then the end of biological life might not represent the termination of consciousness, but simply a transition to a different mode of temporal existence. Death might be like graduation from one level of temporal navigation to another. Consciousness learning to operate without the constraints of biological time and sequential experience. The awareness that you experience as uniquely yours might continue existing in quantum information structures that transcend physical dissolution, maintaining coherence across multiple temporal dimensions. This doesn't necessarily mean traditional concepts of afterlife or reincarnation, but rather suggests that consciousness might be far more extensive and durable than we currently understand. The information patterns that constitute your unique awareness might be preserved in quantum structures that exist outside normal spacetime, accessible to future consciousness that learns to navigate temporal dimensions with sufficient skill. Some of the most profound spiritual experiences throughout human history might represent moments when consciousness briefly accesses these extended temporal dimensions, glimpsing the vast continuity of awareness that transcends biological existence. The near-death experiences that report encounters with deceased loved ones, the mystical visions that provide information unknown to the experiencer, the moments of cosmic consciousness that reveal the interconnectedness of all awareness, might all be glimpses of consciousness operating in its full temporal potential. But these possibilities also suggest that the consciousness you experience right now might be far more extensive than you realize. Your awareness might already include connections to past and future states of consciousness that exist in quantum superposition beneath the surface of ordinary experience. The memories that feel most deeply meaningful, the insights that seem to come from beyond normal thinking, the intuitions that guide you toward beneficial choices, might all be expressions of your extended consciousness accessing its full temporal range. This expanded view of consciousness invites us to reconsider what it means to be an individual aware being in a quantum universe. You might not be a separate entity observing reality from outside, but rather a localized focusing of universal consciousness. Awareness temporarily concentrated in particular biological systems, while remaining connected to the vast cosmic intelligence from which all consciousness emerges. Your thoughts, choices, and experiences might be contributing to a cosmic conversation that includes all conscious beings across all of time and space. Every moment of awareness might be participating in the universe's ongoing exploration of its own infinite potential. Consciousness investigating consciousness through the remarkable gift of individual perspective. So, as we reach the end of our journey through the temporal mysteries that surround us, we find ourselves not with definitive answers, but with something far more precious, a deeper understanding of the profound questions that connect us to the deepest structures of reality itself. Whether time travel in the mechanical sense will ever become possible remains an open question. But we've discovered that we're already time travelers, conscious beings navigating the fourth dimension moment by moment, participating in the cosmic dance of causality that weaves past and future into the eternal now. Sweet dreams, fellow explorers of time and consciousness.